Do you feel like every time you make a payment to your health or life insurance policy, you're making a payment to the multi-billion-dollar industry and feeling like you've been totally smacked down? Wrestling reference, SmackDown. Anyway, there are better options. Deal with an independent broker, someone who does the shopping just for you. Timmy Hutson has been in the business for 4 years now and is certified from anything from health, Medicare, life, and hell, even annuities. Give Timmy Hudson a call at 770-361-8271. Once again, give Timmy Hudson a call at 770-361-8271. There are not many things in life that anybody can guarantee except for two things. One, that Timmy Hudson will treat you just like family, no matter if you need Medicare, life, or annuities. And then Alex G's and David Fine's Royal Rumble 1989 review and look back begins now. Welcome in to Retro Wrestling Rewind, episode number 16. And that's right, folks. We've made it to episode number 16.
Sweet 16.
I don't want to know what you were doing on your Sweet 16 birthday, Alex G. But that's for another. If you want to know what happened on that, you gotta come to Patreon, or you have to come to WrestleCon 2019 in New York at the.
My fingers still smell funny.
At the Midtown Manhattan Hilton. We're going to be there. It's going to be in April. It's going to be great. If you want to know more about that, just go to the RW Rewind on Twitter. As always, I am the better looking, I would say I am the Stan Lane of this twosome. And folks, here is the Bobby Eaton of this tag team, Alex G from Long Island, man. How are you doing? Last week, Clash of the Champions numero uno. Today, Royal Rumble 1989. Man, we made it to episode 16, Sweet 16. What was I doing on my 16th birthday? I was actually a ring announcer at 16. Yes, that's right, folks. Funny story. A booker of a promotion that I worked back in 1991 when I was 16. The guy came to pick me up at my parents' house. Picture this. I was 16 years old. A man who was a bail.
Already sounds like a lifetime story.
A bail bondsman by trade. So of course you can always trust bail bondsmen and bounty hunters, but that's beside the point. Comes, meets my mom for the first time ever. Has a big wad of cash in his pocket. At least I think that was a wad of cash, but that's beside the point. Takes my mom and dad's 16-year-old blonde bombshell, as I would say, the pretty boy, down to Macon for a wrestling show.
Did you have a mullet?
Did I have a mullet? No, God, no. I was a pretty boy. Like I said.
Did you have dreadlocks?
No. And no, I do not. I did not have dreadlocks. But anyway, come to find out, he was a good guy. My parents trusted him. He was in the gold Cadillac, had a lot of money in his pocket, bail bondsman. So that's what I was doing on Sweet 16. I don't want to know what you were doing because you said something about your fingers still smell, but that's neither here nor there. Let's moving on. 1989's Royal Rumble. What were your thoughts on this show kind of going in so many years ago?
Well, I think we mentioned it on the last show that I received this tape for a birthday present. Actually, it's probably my favorite birthday present of all time. Actually, my favorite presents of all time always include some sort of wrestling tape. Like for Christmas one year, my dad got me all the WrestleManias, which is the best Christmas present I ever got in my entire life. So like all my presents always that I really enjoy tend to be wrestling related presents. I guess the irony for this particularly going into Christmas, this is a couple of weeks before Christmas, is that for the last couple of years, I've been getting very strange Christmas presents. Now, for someone like me that had like really, really specific interests, I like professional wrestling, like comic books, like Star Wars. People in my family often want to get me presents that are wrestling related or Star Wars related or comic book related. And not necessarily having overall understanding of, number one, why I like these things and how deep I am into these things and what I have personally, I get kind of strange presents. So I often get coffee mugs with like comic book characters on them or Star Wars coffee mugs. The problem is I don't drink coffee. I barely even use cups, to be completely honest. Or I'll get a Funko, like the Funko Pops of like the Joker, because I'm in the Batman, right? And those are all well and good, and I appreciate the presents, but I was like, I wish you didn't waste your money. So for this particular year, I made a list on Amazon, and I felt like a 9-year-old kid handing out my Christmas list to people. It felt weird. I don't know if I'm going to do it again. I got some strange and dirty looks from it, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll get stuff on my list. Maybe I won't. I'm not going to hold it against people. But if you're really interested in getting me a present that I'm going to enjoy that I picked up myself, stick to the list. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love lists. I mean, it's like one of those things that, I mean, folks, if you make a list, that's the shit that you want. You don't want these, these knickknacks or like an ugly sweater from your grandma Sally. I mean, I mean, I don't
I
have
mean,
a,
at this point, most people should be using Amazon for most of their shopping needs. I know I do at an obnoxious level, an obnoxious rate, where like literally I have boxes coming to my house every day because I'm a collector of goods, what have you, and we're in an acquisition mode in my household right now. So,
yeah,
uh,
it's because as people would have known listening to last week's episode where we talked about Clash One, your garage, your 2-car garage is almost full of your tapes and your DVDs and
yeah.
your other as they would say mint on card. Another podcast says that
Well, those are all getting open, by the way, because I'm not a mint on card collector. I am a loose collector. I like to display them in a glass display cases with stands and stuff. That's what I do. And I only collect Star Wars action figures for right now. I do want to get into some of the vintage lines, whether it be Masters of the Universe or GI Joes. Just there's a big barrier to entry due to price and availability. For example, like if you want a complete He-Man action figure from '82, in pretty good condition, it's going to run you $75. And that's something I'm not willing to spend on one action figure. What compounds the issue is that they have new Masters of the Universe action figures made by Super 7. And they have Matty Collector ones who eventually gave the license to Super 7. But those, if you're not there for the initial release of like Wave 1 of these action figures, so the Wave 1 obviously is going to have like your He-Man, your Skeletors, and you get those for a decent price, would be $40 or what have you. Right now, they're going for upwards of $200. So there's a big barrier to entry in vintage toy collecting or vintage-like toy collecting. Would it be, some of the Masterpiece Transformer action figures or some of the GI Joes, the 25th, 30th, or 50th anniversary GI Joes are all super expensive. So when it comes to Star Wars, the reason why I collect Star Wars is because they're cheap.
so you're trying to say you're cheap.
I'm a budget collector because I do kind of strange things that maybe people don't think about when they're purchasing action figures. So I look at wave counts. So for me, I wait for the price to drop. So I know that, wave 1, wave 2, probably wave 3, if there's not a particular action figure that's going to be super hot that I think is going to be super hot, or there's one that has a low wave count. So in the boxes, you might have 3 of one figure, 3 of another figure, and then 2, and then one figure that has the one action figure in the case. So you know that the one that's going to be one, you're probably going to spend full price to get. So which will be $7.99, $13.99, $19.99, whatever that price is. See, unfortunately, you got to try to pick out those ones. So if I know a figure, in 6 to 8 months is going to be down to $3.99 on the Hasbro website, I want to wait for that. But if I know that a figure is going to go up in value, I'll pay retail for it. Again, if you're trying to collect and you're trying to amass a quantity of things, you can't go out and spend full price. Now, there's people who like to collect stuff that are in the wild. That in the wild meaning you go to your Target, you go to no longer Toys R Us, but your Target, your Kmart, or wherever these action figures are, and you want to find them in the store because you're kind of reliving your youth here a little bit and trying to find them out in the wild. I don't do that. I'll go right to Entertainment Earth or the Big Bad Toy Store and get a case and call that a fucking day. Because for fuck's sake, I don't got time to be searching out in stores for this shit.
A whole case.
Yeah, case.
Man, if I collected all that crap, my wife would just, well, she wouldn't be my wife anymore. She'd be like, nope.
I don't get encouraged. I have to hide things in my garage every once in a while, and I have quite a bit at this point, so I can sneak a figure here or there, and they're not necessarily all that expensive. I can find figures for $2 or $3. If I want to get some stormtroopers, I get 10 of them for $20.
Hey,
It's not gonna break the bank, and it's not gonna kill me.
no, it's
With issues, it's like when you try to get some of these vintage lines or some of the bigger pieces, would it be vehicles or play sets? Even with the modern wrestling figures, the reason I don't collect it is because they're expensive. And even the new ones that are like the Hasbro's from back in the day, those are cool, but you're talking $12.99 a figure there. And
yeah,
some of those are really hard to find.
yeah. We'll talk about that more on another show. But speaking of Royal Rumble, why I keep on saying Royal Rumble 1989,
Royal Rumble 1989 live from the Houston Summit in Houston, Texas.
and the first two matches they're dark matches, so of course
No
we
one
didn't.
cares because it's Sam Houston.
And Jim, hey, I was talking about the great Jim Powers, Barry Horowitz, the Brooklyn Brawler, Steve Lombardi.
I'm wondering right off the bat, how come the Young Stallions going to get pushed more? Because I really like them as a team. Obviously, Paul Roma would be better off when he was teaming with Hercules a couple of years later. But the Young Stallions weren't bad.
Yeah, I mean, and this whole card, I mean, it goes by so fast because the main event is an hour and 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's kind of get into that first match. The first match on pay-per-view with Jim Duggan, Hart Foundation, defeated the late Dino Bravo, the fabulous Rougeau brothers, Jacques and Raymond, with Frenchie Martin, and the Mouth of South, Jimmy Hart. Your thoughts on this 2 out of 3 falls match? Went 15-42.
This is a cool little feud here because there's two intersecting feuds here. Obviously, you have the Jim Duggan Dino Bravo feud, and one goes back to see that famous Saturday that Brother Love show where it's Jim Duggan and Brother Love talking about Dino Bravo. They're engaged in a feud, and then you have the Hart Foundation Rougeau's feud where Jimmy Hart still owns a piece of the Hart's contract, and he sold it to the Rougeau, the fabulous Rougeau brothers. So they actually mentioned this in commentary. So be on the lookout for that. Again, this is 2 out of 3 falls. International rules, which I don't know what that means. They don't really explain it all that well. We just know that it's 2 out of 3 falls. It's a 6-man tag match. It's not elimination. So it's a really interesting match, a little bit different than what you would see normally on a WWF card here. It's kind of shocking here, though. Even the way they did it with all the, I guess the falls in this match. You had Duggan. You had Bret Hart who pinned Raymond Rougeau for. I got that backwards. You had the Harts get the first fall. Then you had the Dino Bravo and Rougeau get the second fall on Bret, and look like they murdered Bret because they hit him with both finishes. They hit him with the side suplex and the flying crotch bomb, whatever they call that fucking maneuver. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Eventually, Duggan does get they get the win when Duggan hits Bravo with 2x4. So
Yeah,
it's a fun match. I mean, it's a really good match. Really strange things on commentary is, and as a kid, I thought Jesse was wrong, but I guess Jesse was right because they said that the Rougeaus and Dino Bravo all knew French because they were Canadians, but Bret Hart is Canadian too. And as a kid, I thought all Canadians knew French. That's not the case.
No.
So Jesse was actually right. Bret Hart does not know French.
Well, for once, he was actually right. The next match, kind of moving on, it was for the women's WWF Women's Championship. And little fact, this was the last match for a championship title conducted at a major WWF pay-per-view for nearly 5 years. Of course, Rockin' Robin sadly left the company in June of '89, and with little to no interest in women's wrestling at the time, the title was deactivated in February of 1990. Of course, it's vacated. The title remained vacant until 1993 when the very, very pretty, very vivacious Alundra Blaze won a tournament to become the new champion. Rockin' Robin, Judy Martin.
The most interesting thing about this match is Sensational Sherry, who makes an appearance in the ring and then challenges the winner for a future championship match. A little known fact: when Sherry debuted in the WWF, she was still AWA Women's Champion. So essentially, because she does win the championship, I believe from Moolah, she essentially does unify both the AWA and WWF in the WWF Women's Championship. She makes her challenge, but doesn't go anywhere because Sensational Sherry will go on to manage Macho Man in a few months. Rockin' Robin is the sister of Jake the Snake Roberts, and she actually whips out a DDT. I kind of wish Judy Martin whipped out her power bomb that used to use on the Jumping Bond of Angels, but she didn't, unfortunately.
I mean, it was for a
Also,
what?
by the way, this match is cut to fucking shreds on the Coliseum home video version. The WWE Network version has this match extended, which doesn't do this match any favors, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, you think it should have gone a little? It should have been the old Coliseum cut video.
I think they should have left it cut because 6 minutes 24 seconds is a little long for this match, and Rockin' Robin wasn't necessarily the best worker in the world. Judy Martin is okay for a kind of a Moolah type women's wrestler for the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, the women's division has come a long way since this match.
I mean, oh God, the women. I mean, they have their own paper. They had their own pay-per-view Evolution, which you were at. I mean, so they've come a long way. And speaking of, with you coming a long way, you've got so many subscribers and followers on your YouTube channel. I mean, if people cannot get enough of your sweet, tender voice, how can they find you
Not
on the old?
Tinder. I know you're a big fan of Tinder.
I know I'm not a fan of Tinder. Swipe left, up, down. Is that? I don't know. Anyway, how can they find you?
Well, on YouTube, you type in retro wrestling games, and it will be the first thing that pops up. Recently, we just did a show where the main event for the NWA 1984 project was Ric Flair taking on Tully Blanchard for the Mid Atlantic Heavyweight Championship. In addition, on that show as well, we had Bruiser Brody taking on Bob Backlund in 1984, right after Bob Backlund left the WWF. And Bob Backlund is crazy. He still claims to be the WWF champion. So essentially, we have a champion versus champion match at the Omni. So be on the lookout for that. It should be out when you listen to this. So
I
definitely
mean,
take a look at that.
yeah. I mean, any other projects that you're working on? I mean, I know you're always on the
We
move.
got so much stuff coming up. Again, it's just a matter of just getting everything uploaded. We're looking at Natsumi Championship Wrestling for the Super Nintendo. That video should be out shortly. We have Crime Fighters, which is an arcade game from the 80s that everyone should be taking a look at. We do have that, Double Dragon featuring Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. That should be out by the time you hear this. So, again, a lot of stuff coming up. We're still around 1,500 subscribers. We want to get to, at least 2,000 in the not so distant future. So I might do a subscription drive, maybe do a free giveaway. We'll see what happens.
I love subscription drives, kind of like PBS when they come on and say, "Can you please give us money so you can see Downton Abbey?" or something like that. I cannot. I mean, it's one of those things, folks, that go out of your way. I mean, even if you're not a fan of retro wrestling games, video games, wrestling games, go on, watch it. I mean, it is. It is.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
do the superstar spotlight like we did recently one on Ox Baker, and the fact that he kills people in the ring. He killed two people in the ring. So that's interesting. A lot of interesting promos in there as well. We talked about Iceman King Parsons. We're gonna have part two of Ric Flair's career that we'll take a look at. We throw in some modern wrestling in there, but again, this is a booking simulator of 1984 NWA if they went national a year earlier. So definitely take a look at that. And then when we talk about these video games, it's not just a review on the games. We always pick up a secondary topic when we talk about these things. So for example, when we do the World Championship Wrestling video game, we're going to talk about WCW 1989.
I mean, it's folks. If that's not a teaser, I don't know what is. Next match, fifth match on the card, King Haku with the late, but God, the very great Bobby the Brain Heenan. Kind of, if he had had a podcast, he'd probably be the number one podcast in the history of podcasts. He took on not a man who was not in the prime of his career, Harley Race, singles match for the King of the Ring
Greatest
crown and
wrestler on
cap
God's green
and
earth, by the
cape.
way.
I mean, it was the Royal Rumble, and it was for the King of the Ring crown and cape.
Well, a couple of things here. The King of Ring had become a unofficial championship at this time.
Okay.
We'll see that going forward more in 1989. But let's also talk about the Coliseum home video release. This match was cut. It wasn't on it. Actually, there's no mention of this match on that video whatsoever. Again, when we talk about Harley Race, he was the king of wrestling. He actually did win a King of the Ring tournament. That was basically unaired on a house show. So he was legitimately the King of the Ring champion. And he had to advocate his throne through the injury because Hulk Hogan tried to murder him. Harley Race did a table spot where he tries to headbutt Hulk Hogan, and from what I understand, the table broke up instead of down,
Oof.
and like really, really fucked him up bad. So he was out with an injury for quite a while. So Bobby the Brain Heenan, established a new king, which was King Haku, and this really cements King Haku as the new king because he defeated Harley Race. Now King Haku would go on to lose the King of the Ring to Jim Duggan, who eventually lost it to Randy Savage, and that's how you get the Macho King thing going on. But that championship was essentially retired when Savage retired in '91.
Yeah, I mean this whole card didn't go very long because the main event is
Hour and
it was
4
a Royal
minutes.
Rumble. Gonna go down the entrance.
Wait, because we have the Super Pose down, which is very important. I
Okay.
believe the Super Pose
Oh,
down went between the women's championship match and maybe the King Haku Harley Race match.
I know
But
that was
this is
that.
very important because it sets up the feud for Warrior and Roode at WrestleMania 5. So that's super important. They were doing this thing on TV where, who has the best body, Ravishing Rick Rude or the Ultimate Warrior? And it seems kind of strange, at least on paper, having the Ultimate Warrior involved in a Super Down. But it's something they did on this Royal Rumble and the one prior. The year prior, they had a bench press contest sort of thing where Dino Bravo was trying to beat the world record, which he kind of did, but it was Jesse kind of helping him too. But this year they had a Super Pose Down, so they did all their poses, and I think everyone kind of knew, much like a wrestling wedding, that something was going to happen. And obviously, Warriors getting the crowd reaction, and he was going to win the Super Pose Down. And Bobby the Brain Heenan squirts baby oil in the Warrior's face, which he just no sells, by the way. And then Rude attacks him with his workout bar. And he literally beats the shit out of Warrior pretty good. And then he basically just powders out of the ring. And then all the officials come down to check up on the Warrior. And Warrior destroys all the officials, including a rare appearance by Nick Bockwinkel on WWF TV on their show. Rick Rude kind of runs out of the building, and Warrior runs after him. This sets up WrestleMania 5.
I know that was your favorite part of the entire festivities, wasn't it?
Yeah, because he had Oakland out there. He was like the moderator or host of the Super Pose Down, and he was saying funny shit. Like, it was hilarious if you watch it back.
He was a great ring announcer. I mean, he was
Probably
great.
the best backstage interviewer of all time. I think hands down. I think everyone would say that. His commentary is kind of weak from time to time. Although his early stuff with McMahon, like at Wrestling with the Chase, like in '84, was pretty good. But having him doing play-by-play is kind of rough to watch every once in a while. But as a backstage interviewer, he is perfect, flawless.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. But speaking of a great
Put
match,
that cigarette out.
we're going to talk about a great match. I'm going to kind of go down the entrance in the 1989 30-man over-the-top Royal
This is
Rumble.
like a time capsule,
It's like
folks,
Axe,
of
Smash,
1989 of WWF. So go through
Andre
this.
the Giant, Mr. Perfect, Ron Garvin, Greg Valentine, Jake Roberts, Ron Bash, Shawn Michaels, Bushwhacker, Luke, the world's greatest Intercontinental Champion, the Honky Tonk Man, Chico Santana, Tito Santana, Bad News Brown, Marty Jannetty, Randy Savage, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Hulk Hogan, of course, Bushwhacker, Luke, Coco Beware, the Warlord, Big Boss Man, Akeem, the African Dream, Brutus, the fucking Barber Beefcake, the Red Rooster, my favorite wrestler, the Barbarian, Big John Studd, Hercules, Rick Martel, and $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Kind of go, down the card. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I know that this match set up the split between Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan.
Right. It's one of the many pieces of the Mega
puzzle.
Powers explode. It's just one of the pieces because there's a lot. This is Hulk Hogan Randy Savage is the greatest feud in the history of professional wrestling, hands down, by far.
I mean,
Not by a little bit. Like a lot of people say Austin McMahon, but no, Hogan and Savage was better.
kind of talk about some of these these, I mean,
I think right off the bat, the first thing you have to say is like, oh, it's cool they had Axe and Smash fight each other. So as the first time partners kind of went at it like that, and that was cool to see. And then see Andre coming in as number 3, and then you have Demolition versus Andre. Your WWF Tag Team Champions taking on Andre the Giant was really cool to see.
yeah, I mean, of course we had,
Then you have Mr. Perfect, who came in his non-Mr. Perfect gear. He's still in his AWA gear, which is interesting to see. He is bumping all over the fucking place too.
yeah, I mean, he was a great worker. I mean, we had Jake Roberts. I mean, Cowboy Ron, or I don't know if he was a cowboy, but Ron Bass. I mean,
Ron Boss was still the cowboy. Recently got his head shaved by Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Which is cool.
what were your thoughts on Bad News Brown?
I love Bad News Brown. He was incredible, and I'm kind of upset that the Bad News Randy Savage feud never went anywhere. So Bad News Brown went on the Brother Love show and accused Jack Tunney of getting sexual favors from Miss Elizabeth to protect Randy Savage from him, which is insane. I love that angle, and the fact that when Savage turned heel, because they're in the middle of the Bad News Brown feud, and then basically what happened was Hogan substituted for Savage in that feud to defend the honor of Miss Elizabeth. But Bad News Allen, Bad News Brown is awesome. If you guys only seen him in the WWF, check him out in Stampede. He's fucking incredible. He's in like the early ladder matches with Bret Hart in Stampede. So, legit fucking badass, fucking judo fucking player. Like I really like. Realistically, he probably could have won the WWF Championship around this time, and no one would have fucking blinked an eye. Like
Yeah.
top heel.
I mean, he was definitely, I mean, menacing. And speaking of two guys that were better in the NWA and better in previous incarnations.
And you were talking about the Brainbusters. The Brainbusters had a good run in WWF.
No, I was not talking about them. I'm talking about Luke and Butch, the Bushwhackers.
The former sheep herders.
I mean, didn't you like them better as the sheep herders? I mean, they freaking.
I did, but they probably made more money as the Bushwhackers.
I mean, of course they're going to make more money.
Like they're 1,000 years old here. Eventually, like, oh, we're just gonna do this comedy shit and lick kids, which I always thought was off-putting. Even as a kid myself, around this time, I don't want the fucking Bushwhackers to fucking lick me. They're weird looking.
That seems like it probably would not be would not go over well now. And,
No, it didn't go over well back then either. Because I thought that shit was gross.
But you know what went over well? Honky Tonk Man, the greatest. I mean, I will fight you to it to death. The greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Thoughts?
I love Honky. Honky is fucking incredible. Bigger than you think he is, by the way. Again, a lot of people give him shit, but he's actually a really good worker. If you see some of the stuff over in Stampede, you've seen some of the stuff he did over in Memphis. Like, he was doing really good work and legitimate top guy because, he's having all those main events for the IC belt with Savage, outdrawing Hogan and whatever the fuck he was doing. Like, Honky Tonk Man and Savage main evented the Garden with no Hogan on the show.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, that was the big feud of the year before. Like, right before Savage won the belt, it was him and Honky, like, all over the fucking place. And they were having really good matches.
Yeah, and I mean, and the guy that
Honky was such a heel, he turned Randy Savage babyface.
I mean, you got to be a heel, a big ass heel whenever you can do that. But I mean, back whenever I, was watching this, back originally in 1989, Rick Martel, I mean, he definitely played a great heel. I mean, he's
a babyface here, though.
I mean, he came in 29th. I mean,
Rick Martel's still a babyface. He just came back from his injury. So this is like his first pay-per-view back from his injury, which had him out like fucking 8 months. Like, he's been out for a long time. Again, he's still clearly in his Strike Force gear. You know what I mean? So, he would turn, at WrestleMania 5 and eventually become the model, which was actually a really good gimmick for him. I know a lot of people like, oh, I miss my AWA World Champion Rick Martel. I really did like the model. I thought he did really good. Championships were weird back then. But if it was today, he probably would have had 2 or 3 fucking IC title runs in him.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely, like, here's the thing about, like, this era WWF. Yes, there's guys of various degrees of skill, right? Some of the gimmicks are campy and corny, but for God's sakes, everyone, we look down this list right here, everyone is memorable as fuck.
Yeah, and I know that you were a fan of Big John Studd and him winning the Rumble. Thoughts
No,
on
it
that?
made no fucking sense.
Why did it not make sense?
Realistically, it probably should have been Hogan or Savage at the end, where like, oh, Savage eliminates Hogan by doing some nefarious thing, and having Savage win it. Like Stud is back, right? So Stud's been gone for I don't know since like 1985, and this is his big return. But he's not in the shape he was. He's a babyface here. You know, there's no reason to have him win here. He doesn't even wrestle WrestleMania 5. He's the guest referee between Jake and Andre. So it made no sense long term. Like, oh, it's great. Big John Studd fucking won it. That's awesome. I would have had DiBiase win it. Like, he bought his number. That was the big kind of angle throughout the show was, oh, Ted DiBiase bought, I'm assuming, either Akeem or Bossman's fucking number. That was the whole basis. And they actually play into it in the next year's WrestleMania where, like, they watch him so he gets number one. But, you know, it made no sense for John Studd to win it here. Much rather see Hogan, Savage, maybe even Bad News win it, Ted DiBiase win it. But nope, we're going with Big John Studd. He eliminates Akeem. He eliminates fucking
He eliminates
DiBiase,
two
and then he
people.
throws fucking Virgil out at the end just for fucking fun.
Yeah, I mean, some kind of notes on the Rumble. This, of course, was the first Royal Rumble match, 30 men. Hulk Hogan set a new record for most eliminations with 10. Previous record was held by One Man Gang / Hakeem, the African Dream. Mr. Perfect broke Bret Hart's record for longevity by lasting 27 minutes, 58 seconds. And the Warlord, yes, the Warlord, set the record for the shortest time in Royal Rumble with 2 seconds when he was eliminated by Double H Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, that was funny. Kind of the Warlord kind of just gets in the ring, poses, and gets fucking clotheslined like in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean,
You know who really fucking stole the show in this match? Who? Go back and watch him, fucking Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, I mean, Shawn was...
Like, there's guys to watch. Like, watch the stuff Greg Valentine does in this match. If you're going back and watching this match, watch Perfect, watch Shawn Michaels, watch Anderson and Blanchard. Obviously, you want to watch the Savage and Bad News stuff. You know, that's really good. Even kind of like the Hercules stuff and even the whole angle where they eliminated Hogan, which is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
They just chunked the Bossman, the Twin Towers just fucking chuck him out. Like, they just eliminate him, and then Bossman gets dragged underneath the ropes, and Akeem, they start getting a fight. And basically, Hogan drags Bossman back. Never gets eliminated, by the way. Bossman does not get eliminated. He just gets beaten up by Hogan in the back. And then he actually had Brutus Beefcake make the save with Hogan. So you kind of see like, oh, Brutus, they're putting Brutus with Hogan again. So that seemed kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But like Hogan hits fucking Bossman with like a fucking briefcase in the head and shit. Like that's like those are like Hogan had really great matches with Bossman. So
yeah, I mean it was. I mean
they drew big fucking money.
Yeah, I mean overall, I mean what was your grade like we do every week? Your grade 1 to 10 on Royal Rumble 1989.
Objectively speaking, it's probably a 5 out of 10, but in terms of nostalgia, it's a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean it's. I think it's a lot better.
It's a setup show. It's a setup show for WrestleMania 5. Unfortunately, they don't do a good job of setting it up.
No,
because you don't have like, it's not the Hart Foundation taking on the Rougeaus at Mania because the Rougeaus take on the Bushwhackers. You do eventually get that Ted DiBiase Hercules match at WrestleMania 5. You get the Red Rooster Bobby Heenan, but they don't do anything there. The only thing that they're really setting up is the Mega Powers exploding.
Yeah, well, which I mean, that was a freaking great feud. But I mean,
well, they did the Andre. Well, you got to talk about the spot with Jake, where Andre eliminates himself because Jake throws the fucking snake in the ring, which is awesome.
Yeah,
like Andre fucking murders Jake, like beats the shit out of him, eliminates him, and then Jake comes back with the snake, and then Andre throws himself out.
I mean, classic Andre. I mean, eliminates himself. I mean, what can you say?
How else would you eliminate him unless you have Hogan do it?
Yeah, I mean, it was It is. I mean, it was a great show. I mean, it was no Clash one, which of course we covered last week. And speaking of next week, we're covering Clash of the Champions 11, the Great Coastal Crush. Your thoughts on that before we wrap up the program for this week?
Coastal Crush, Clash of the Champions.
It had the Wild Eyed Southern Boys and your
Well,
favorite tag team, the Fabulous Freebirds, on the program.
I hate this version of the Freebirds so much.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, your,
gross.
your thought, your thoughts on this? I mean, on this
Well,
show?
the show is fine. I mean, you end up having that Junkyard Dog versus Ric Flair match, which Ric Flair hates anything to do with Junkyard Dog. But you do get a Paul Orndorff versus Arn Anderson match, which is pretty good. And then you have the Doom taking on the Steiners, which is really, really interesting. You also have the Luger, Sid Vicious.
You
You
had
have
a Mark
Mark
Callis.
Calloway and Brian Pillman, which is good.
Yep.
You have the Rock and Roll versus the Midnights, which you would think is a good match, but the match is not the greatest in terms of matches you would see from them. And then you have fucking Tom Zenk. I know one of your favorite guys.
He's not my one of my he is one of my favorites, but my favorite wrestler was on the show, the great. Tell me something about Tommy Wildfire Rich taking on Bam
Oh,
Bam
for
Bigelow.
fuck's sake! Like I like Tommy, right? Tommy's
Yeah,
a good worker, but motherfucker hasn't been over since 1983.
yeah, and when
Unless you're in Continental or the heel turn in Memphis. But for fuck's sake, like Tommy Rich at this point, and like you have Bam Bam Bigelow. Why is Bam Bam Bigelow not going over here?
yeah, I mean,
Like that WCW run for Bam Bam wasn't the greatest.
no, it was. I mean, it's definitely not. But I mean, folks, we're coming up next week on episode 17. We have 3 more episodes that we've already booked that the bookers have already put in the books. But after that, we need your help. So if there is a show, doesn't matter what era, if it's 2000 to 19
Uncensored 1995.
to 1980, you know what? I'm gonna push it to 1980. If there's an angle, there's this show. If there's a tag team, a singles wrestler. I mean, if you want us to cover the life of Sam Houston, I mean, we will do that. You just have to tweet us at the RW Rewind. Just type in the
Do a
comments.
show with Firebreaker Chips on it, because I want to talk about Firebreaker Chip.
No, 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 no.
Starcade 91, nothing?
No,
Really?
no. And then, coming up in April of next year, like I said, we're gonna be at WrestleCon, and the whole Twitter thing is gonna be big because we're gonna have you vote on the shows we're gonna cover, because we are, folks. I have all night and all day
That's gross.
and all day and all night to do shows. We will talk about anything. What legends do you want us to try to get? And we're going to be reaching out to a couple that we already have confirmed, that are going to be in the program at WrestleCon in New York in April of next year, 2019. It's going to be great. Any last comments on this show? And
Vote for any shows that have Van Hammer on it.
no, Van freaking Hammer. I mean, folks, if we're going to do a Van
I want
Hammer,
to see Joey Janela versus Van Hammer so fucking bad. I tweet at him constantly to book that match.
and does he tweet back at you?
It does not.
You know who you probably want to tweet at you, because you've told me in the pre-show, and we talked about it last week. You want us to be next to Missy Hyatt at her
Missy
booth
Hyatt, yes.
at WrestleCon in New York. It's April 5th and 6th is going to be WrestleCon. Yeah, that Friday and Saturday of WrestleMania weekend. I mean, what shows are you officially attending at WrestleMania weekend?
Oh, funny that you asked, because I have my actually tickets in front of me. So we have, let me pull it up here. Don't be stupid.
Hey, what did I do? Oh, you weren't talking about me. Sorry.
Obviously, I'm going to WrestleMania. All right. So I think that goes without saying. Actually, I think I got pretty decent seats for that. I will be at Ring of Honor at Madison Square Garden, which is going to be fantastic. And I'm at the WrestleCon Super Show. I'll be there as well. That's the Thursday night show. So
The Thursday night show. And do you have anything scheduled for that Saturday? Oh yeah, you're going to be in one of the fine booths at WrestleCon. I mean, it's going to be epic. I mean, I know we say this a lot, but it's all about the fans. The fans
Yeah,
are coming.
at some point, since I've been to these conventions before, maybe we could just do a what to do, what not to do at these conventions. Because I am a veteran of these conventions. I got a lot of pictures with wrestlers that we might put up at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, listen, Alex G. I mean, he has been to a lot of not just WWE, related stuff, but a lot of other conventions, wrestling conventions, and he knows the do's and don'ts. I mean, the things you should do, the things you shouldn't do. I mean, he's gonna probably school me on a bunch of those things because I'm just gonna be like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, oh my god, all these people are here. Let's try to get everybody on the show.
Like, don't take pictures of the wrestlers. If this is what the common mistake is that you're walking around taking pictures of the wrestlers, like at the tables. Like, don't do that. Like, they get really fucking pissed off if you do that. Don't do that. If you want to take a picture, fucking get in line, pay your fucking money, stand next to them, and sometimes the handler will take the picture. Most of the time, I usually have my wife, but my wife is not going to be with me. So it might be you taking these pictures for me.
Ah, crap.
We'll see how,
yay.
we'll see how
I
that
can't
goes.
wait. I'm going to be your +1. That sounds great. But for
I want to see Pentagon. That's going to be fucking sweet.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be definitely an epic weekend. It's going to be one of those things that, I mean, I'm not sure about you, but I will not be getting a lot of sleep because I'm going to be putting a lot of man hours, hustling, trying to get the legends on the program. Like I said, if there's a legend that is going to be at WrestleCon, because you can find the unofficial, it's official as of today, as of this taping Wednesday, of the people that are going to be at WrestleCon.com, correct?
That's correct. We'll get it right now.
And then, I mean, kind of just name some of the people just that are going to be there, even if they're not legends. Who is scheduled and signed?
We got Shane Helms, Sammy Callahan, Cole Cabana, Ray Phoenix, Pentagon, Bandito, Joey Ryan, Nikita Koloff, Jimmy Valiant, Barry Windham, Jay Dillon, Bobby Eaton, Stan Lane, Ronnie Garvin, Baby Doll, Tim Horner, John Harrigan, Tyler Valkyrie, Missy Hyatt, Ted DiBiase, Tully Blanchard, Lex Luger, Ric Flair, Mick Foley, Medeja, Pamela Parshat, Tajiri, Kelly, Emma, Taryn Terrell, Candice Michelle, Ricky Steamboat, Teddy Long, Bill Apter, Jake Roberts, James Ellsworth, Davari and Hassan, Colin Delaney, and Buff Bagwell.
Well, I mean, James Ellsworth, I mean, he'll probably do something to...
Ain't touching that one with a 10-foot pole, my friend.
No, and well, yeah, he's got a face...
I feel like I'm the only person in the world he didn't send dick pics to.
Yeah, I'm
disappointed.
It was weird. I got an email that said, hey, you want to see a picture? And it came from James Ellsworth. It was weird, but, I don't know. Yeah, I deleted it, thank God.
Yeah,
but
you get embarrassed that way.
But you can get a lot of other things from James Ellsworth. But anyway, on that note, for the great Alex G, as always, I am David Fine. Next week, we cover Clash of the Champions 11. It's going to be a great show. We'll see you back here next week.